Whenever Sam Zell finds time from his busy schedule to close his eyes and think back to his 80 years on this earth, it's hard to see him having too many regrets. Thanks to his $6 billion net worth, he ranks in the top 500 of the 735 billionaires in the United States. He is recognized as the pioneer of modern real estate investment trust in America. And one of the companies he chairs, Equity Residential, controls up to 80,000 residential apartment units in the U.S. He was once the largest office property owner in the country courtesy of Equity Office, which he founded and sold for $39 billion to Blackstone Group in 2007 following an intriguing bidding war with Vornado Realty Trusts. Sam Zell is one of the godfathers of real estate in America and an iconic figure in business and entrepreneurship. But when Sam Zell thinks back to his 80 years on this earth, he will also recall that he could have just as easily never existed had his parents delayed a critical decision by a couple of hours. He may be referred to as the grave dancer for his opportunistic business style, but Sam Zell could have easily never had the chance to dance on the skeletons of other people's mistakes. On August 23, 1939, just before World War II broke out, German Foreign Minister and Soviet Foreign Minister met to sign a historic non-aggression pact that protected Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, but also gave Adolf Hitler the freedom to invade Poland. Berek and Rusla Zelanka knew their home country of Poland was no longer safe for them, especially since they were Jews. Hitler's troops were closing in fast, and the window of opportunity to flee the country was closing. The young couple managed to get one of the last trains out of their hometown. Hours later, the same train track would have been bombed by German soldiers, condemning those left behind to unspeakable horrors. 2 years later, Berek and Rusla would settle in Chicago, Illinois, where they birthed Shmuel Zelanka in September 1941. The couple would change their name to Bernard and Rochelle Zell, and Shmuel would come to be known as Samuel Zell. How then would a son of Polish immigrants create a lasting legacy in the country where his parents took safety decades later? It's a fascinating story of perfect timing, daring decision-making, and an almost psychic gift of foresight. Here's the story of Sam Zell's rise to prominence, told in a grippingly true form. It was somewhat inevitable that Sam Zell would go into business and excel in it. He got a first-hand view of his father building a successful jewelry business within 12 years of setting foot in America. Bernard Zell was able to move his family to the high-class neighborhood in Highland Park, Illinois, from the proceeds of that business. It undoubtedly had a lot to do with Sam's early interest in buying and selling. He got his first shot at that by reselling Playboy magazines to his friends who had limited access. He paid me $3 for something I paid for 50 cents. And P.S., I had got to read it first. And maybe for the first time in my life, I really understood supply and demand. An important lesson was learned by young Sam that day, but it wasn't until his undergraduate days in the 60s that he would get a chance to implement the lessons of supply and demand he learned from flipping Playboys. Most of Sam Zell's $6 billion has come because of his unusually keen eye for business opportunities. So when a real estate developer opened a 15-unit student apartment building in the vicinity of the University of Michigan, where he was studying, it made sense that he would try to get in on the action despite having zero experience. He boldly made a pitch to become the apartment's manager and got the job. His audacity would certainly have helped, and his simple payment request of free room and board wouldn't hurt either. But what he had over everyone else that applied was a foolproof plan to remodel the apartments to the very specific tastes of the students. It worked to perfection, and the apartment building became the favorite location for students. The same real estate developer secured 2 more apartment buildings and handed them straight over to Sam to manage without hesitation, this time in exchange for a sizable commission. By the time he enrolled at the University of Michigan Law School, he was ready to step up from property manager to apartment owner. He found success once again, and by the time he was graduating from law school in 1966, he had built a yearly income of $150,000. That would be worth $1.3 million today when adjusted for inflation. You have to find that impressive, right? Of course you do. And Sam Zell was so impressed with himself that he quit his law practice of just 4 years to focus on real estate. He prioritized securing apartment buildings where colleges were opening up across the country and replicated his strategy to attract students. The plan remained flawless, and by his late 20s, Sam Zell was inching close to the millionaire status. In 1968, backed by wealthy investors that knew his capabilities, he founded his first real estate company and went bigger than ever before. By the mid-1970s, Sam Zell was controlling hundreds of millions of dollars worth of residential and commercial property in America. The real estate business was booming, and everyone wanted in on it. That came with a disadvantage of oversaturation. But surely that shouldn't be a problem for Sam Zell, who had become a major player in the field, right? Yet, Sam Zell, always one step ahead of the game, had seen something others were missing: a huge opportunity looming. So he shocked the industry. He stopped buying property entirely. It seemed like a stupid and arrogant move to the rest of the world, but to Sam, it was the one move that would earn him the wealth and power he craved. He just had to find the perfect time to play his trump card. And in 1974, that opportunity came. The stock market and real estate crash of 1974 was one few predicted, and even fewer had prepared for. Sam Zell was one of the few individuals. As the financial crisis took its toll and created a massive pool of distressed real estate properties facing foreclosure, he was properly placed to pounce. He went on a shopping spree and amassed several residential and commercial buildings for slashed prices. By the time the market picked up again in the first quarter of 1975, Sam had begun reaping the benefits of his strategic thinking. He had expanded his reach at the most advantageous time possible, so when the 1980s came rolling in, his company was steadily turning in a 9-figure yearly revenue. Sam Zell knew he had real estate market on lock. The time had come to venture into something a little different. The time had come to earn his nickname, the Grave Dancer. As far as Sam was concerned, the business of corporate takeover was a natural transition to make. If he had made a fortune from turning around distressed real estate properties, why couldn't he do the same with companies on the brink of bankruptcy? The potential profit margins were much higher, and he certainly had the capital to invest. So why not? If we've been as successful in real estate as we've been, aren't we really just good businessmen? And if we're good businessmen, why wouldn't the same principles that apply to real estate apply to buying anything else? He famously said. In 1983, he acquired smaller companies essentially to practice his theories and ideas. So when the opportunity to purchase Zell Corporation came in 1985, Sam was more than ready. As CEO and chairman of Zell Corporation, Sam Zell was able to turn around the fortunes of the falling company and turn them profitable once again. In 1987, he acquired Annixter Brothers for Zell. By 1991, Annixter was pulling in revenues that were approximately $1 billion every year. That's in addition to the $2.3 billion he generated for Zell Corporation in 1992, his last year before stepping down as CEO. He returned his primary focus to his real estate investment trust, where he again redefined the industry by entering his company into the public markets. This brilliant move made Equity Office the largest and most sought-after real estate investment trust before its eventual sale to Blackstone Group in 2007. Many years have passed since that mega sale, but Sam Zell has remained a major player in real estate investment and financial world in general. He did not take a huge loss following his ill-fate acquisition of Tribune Company in 2008, but his stakes at Equity Residential, Annixter, Covanta Holding Group, and a number of other companies continue to keep him in the 3 Comma Club. Aside from making a ton of money, Sam Zell also gives out more than his fair share. He is also a major contributor to several arts and business education programs in America. At 80 years old, he's still going stronger than ever, far from ready to rest on his very comfortable oars. Retire? From what? I haven't worked since the 4th day I was in that law firm, he replied when asked about his intentions to retire. This real estate investment mogul remains a key player and a force to be reckoned with. And he just might still have a few cards up his sleeve in the coming months.